Hey guys, I want to welcome you to the weekly Wednesday for the Financial Freedom newsletter, where every week, every Wednesday, we delve into something inspirational, motivational, something excerpt taken from the Financial Freedom weekly newsletter. Wherever you are, if you're listening on Spotify, on iTunes, Google, be sure to click the like, subscribe, share, comment. And without ado, let's get into the show. Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, I'm always in search of the top distinctions, top mindsets from people that are making an impact and an influence and living life according to the four freedoms: time, financial, location, health. And so in that light, our conversation today is going to be all about conscious leadership, being intentional, showing up, how you show up, being very cognizant of your vibe and how you show up and present yourself to the world. So today I have Nicole Bellisle, and she's going to talk about these concepts in the corporate work organizational setting. So, and I'll let her introduce herself. Nicole, welcome.
Thank you so much, Christopher. It's great to be here.
We had connected through Podmatch. Tell us more about your backstory. I'm always interested, and we'll go from there. What you do.
Beautiful. So I was sort of born an entrepreneur. I think I was born to break the mold and to ask questions and be curious about the different systems or the different norms that our society has. So I've always been questioning that. But I found myself right out of college in a 9-to-5 at Harvard University, of all places, where I was working at a small research center that looked at the connection between human health and the health of our environment, and this idea that they are inextricably connected. You can't decouple them. Our health depends on the health of the planet in so many ways. And that seed really set a mindset for me in the decade to come. And so these days, I still do a lot of executive education, working with sustainability executives from all around the world. I still hold that affiliation with Harvard, even though it's all remote now, so I can work from anywhere around the world. So the Director of Leadership Capacity, Leaders on Purpose, which works with Fortune 100 CEOs to study purpose-driven leadership. And then when I'm not in those two roles, because those are two really big annual contracts, this is part of how I live a very seasonal lifestyle where I have busy seasons and seasons of rest, and that's all by design. But in my more creative seasons, when I'm working on my own content, I have a nonprofit called Living Leaders that I run, and I put out a lot of content on conscious leadership, cycle syncing, and how to scale your company without burning out through different regenerative or nature inspired business models and operational design. So it's all sort of connected, but I do hold a few affiliations. And again, that's really by design.
Really interesting. And I love this concept of by design, intentionality, consciousness. So, there's a lot of directions we can take the conversation, but one is just all-time cynicism, lack of trust in leaders, this all of this. So tell us how your concepts can help improve the consciousness of the landscape.
I love this question. I feel like leadership even 10 years ago was a template that people were learning to try on. It's almost like putting on an outfit, putting on the suit. And then when you're in that suit, you're expected to run your company a certain way, leave your emotions at the door, put your personal relationships last, and really sacrifice your health for the corporate definition of success or whatever it might be. And in the last 10 years, I've seen this big shift towards authenticity and integrity, where the leaders who are attracting and keeping the top talent on the planet are the ones who are leading from their personal value system. And they're so aligned internally. They're so transparent in how they make their decisions, in how they show up in the world, and people can feel that. I really, really believe that people can feel when someone is aligned internally or whether they're putting on a facade or a mask. So leadership we've taken the mask off. The whole human is now invited to show up. And that's inviting others to do the same and to operate from their values and get clear about what's important to them so that they can design lives that really work for them and meet these. I love the 4 types of freedom that you talk about on this podcast. I think leaders today are helping their employees to achieve their version of success and their version of these different types of freedom in ways that we haven't seen, in ways that were not possible even 10 years ago.
Yeah, I really love that. And a lot of Gen Z millennials, they're going out on their own, they're creating their own companies, creating their own businesses. They don't want to work for companies anymore. And whether you use this in the traditional setting or the new setting is quite fascinating, because all these concepts, leadership is not just confined to an organization. One thing that I have a question about is that so this idea of the audience, whether you're on video or audio, can sense your vibe. What do you call your vibe? And do you ever get frustrated, or when an angry client, or like a energy leech, how do you deal with these? For especially as a leader, you're constantly bombarded. You have to make all these decisions. Tell us how you do that.
Totally. I think at our core, leaders are energy managers, whether we realize that consciously or not. And how you manage your energy, I think it boils down to a couple different things. So one is boundaries. And as simple as that sounds, protecting our energy and relying on our body wisdom or our intuition to tell us when we're a yes and when we're a no to something, and then actually taking the action to follow that intuitive knowing. This is so key, so that you get less of that leeching that you're talking about and less of the entitlement that people might feel on your time, on your energy, on taking up space in your life. You get to be the sovereign being and the one with the personal agency to make those choices. So boundaries is a big part of it. But then I also think when it comes to managing your energetic signature of your leadership, or your leadership DNA, if you will, you can get into some really interesting territory when you realize that you can cultivate energy through things like a morning practice, or how you rest, integrate, digest information throughout the day. Gone are the days we wear busyness as a badge of honor. I think these days it's about leading in cycles, like going in and having that meeting, holding that board meeting, making the investor pitch, whatever it is, but then giving ourselves time to integrate. You can design your day in such a way that the energetics don't get as jammed, and you're not dealing with the noise that can be so distracting and take up so much space in the mind. So being really clear about what you allow in and how you process it. We do have agency over that. And I see a lot of the more successful leaders today really practicing their self-leadership practice in this way of, what are my routines? How am I integrating or processing information? We are computers in a way, but we're also sentient biological beings. So we do have to rest and digest in order to process all of the information that we're taking in. And I think being mindful of the information that we actually bring into our system is also a big piece of this too.
One thing studying really successful leaders is that they wake up really early, and then have this morning routine that you described, and all of them start with some, physical or some, contemplative practice. And so you were what I love is you take a lot of incorporation. So you are a Reiki master teacher, and explain to the audience how it made you a better executive, and how spiritual practices, whether it's yoga or other meditation, how that can make you a better leader.
Oh, I already feel myself geeking out on this question. Being a Reiki master has hands down been one of the top things that has made me a more mindful and conscious leader. Not only has it raised my intuition and my ability to sense make or sense into the different feedback loops, both verbal and nonverbal in a room, whether it's, again, with investors or with board members or customers, whatever it is. I feel like the information and the energy that I'm able to pick up on is really dialed. It's vaster than it would be without the experience that I've had as a Reiki master. But the other piece here, and I feel really strongly about this these days, is that as leaders, we also are sitting at the helm of a collective nervous system in our teams. If we show up with a nervous system that is in fight or flight, and we are in this state of hyper reactivity and putting out fires and everything is urgent, like that becomes the bedrock of our cultural patterns in a team culture. And this ripples into the collective nervous system of the team. And now you've got a whole team putting out fires and engaging in these unhealthy patterns, and that impacts their health. It impacts their relationships, really every facet of their whole humanness. So through something like Reiki, where I'm able to manage my stress, clear the blockages or the noise, and really tend myself, like tending my inner children or tending the one in me who is afraid to get on that stage or do that next big thing. Reiki has helped me to calm my nervous system, connect with myself, create space to be a leader, to even be able to notice the subtleties of the energetics in my team. And then if I can show up in a regulated nervous system, I'm leading the collective nervous system of the team. And now we have clear cognitive function. Now we can stay connected to our vision and our purpose and not get distracted by the noise and the chaos. And we can maintain access to our long-term thinking brain rather than being stuck in the short-term survival mode. And this is so important, especially in the spaces where I work, like sustainability, where losing access to that long-term view, it's harmful to humanity, it's harmful to the planet. So I really see this act of regulating and co-regulating our nervous system through whatever practice works, because I think it's going to be different for every person. Reiki has really worked for me. It might be different for someone else, but I see this as a fundamental self of leaders today to manage their energy, manage their nervous system so that they can show up fully.
Yeah, I love that. Really, it's all about, there's a great book by Tony Schwartz about managing energy, not time. And, one question is, a lot of the audience, physicians, they have this continuum, introversion, extroversion, some empaths, intuitives. Is Reiki only work for introverts and intuitives and empaths, or can extroverts use Reiki, kind of the concepts to apply their energetic practices into their leadership styles?
I think the extroverts can use it too. I think we all have a unique gift to offer, and there may be different styles of leadership here, where you have the healing leader on the team, like that anchor who is just always so calm and is kind of the anchor of that collective nervous system. Maybe that is someone who's more introverted or more empathetic, and that's beautiful. And this is one reason why I see the diversified shared leadership models really being a space that I see growing in the next 10 years, where it's not so much the CEO where so much of the leadership falls. You can actually have a team, and not that we don't have executive teams, we do, but there's only so much that one person can provide in their unique gifts before they start stretching outside of the scope of what it is they're best in the world at. But if you can find people where you're maybe pairing an introvert and an extrovert and the unique gifts that each one of them have, now you're forming an us two, as we hear in indigenous knowledge systems, this term us two, where together we are actually our own entity, our own unit, and we can function as this, and then kind of build out from there. So yes, extroverts can absolutely learn a practice like Reiki or other energy management techniques. And I think these are really valuable for anyone who's human, because we all have nervous systems that get triggered, and we need something to bring us back to ourselves. But I also think there's something beautiful in having diversity of these archetypes, these leadership archetypes sitting at the leadership level, so that we can share this, we can combine our gifts in bigger ways.
Yeah, I love that. I really love this idea of applying Eastern with kind of the Western philosophy, healing the work trauma, this toxic work culture. Kind of a couple of final thoughts is, what is the future of leadership? And also, if somebody wanted to go study these leadership styles, which companies embody this sort of style? Is it, the FANG companies? Is it, tell us more.
Yeah. So I think the leadership of the future, I think where it's going is that leaders today and moving forward have to be purpose driven. They have to be exceptional in their executive faculty. They are acting as not only the leader of a business and having to account for the fiduciary responsibilities that come with that and creating profit, but alongside of that, they also are environmental stewards and needing to have that long-term view. They are needing to be more attuned to the global stage, to have the foresight for different political unrest, social justice issues. I mean, there's just so much that a leader is being asked to be these days that it can be overwhelming. And it honestly requires a different skill set. It requires this long-term patterns thinking. It requires more empathy, more intuition, a higher degree of sense-making capabilities. And I think AI is only going to help us to really expand what is possible there. I think even more than all of that, to be a conscious leader that is deeply attuned to themselves, their value set, and their context, so that they can have those sentient feedback loops, just like nature. Like when nature prototypes and learns and evolves, it creates as many iterative feedback loops as it possibly can, because it's constantly prototyping. Our context is always evolving, and our ability to survive or be a fit to that context really depends on our ability to adapt. So there's this quality of adaptation that simply is not possible in today's complexity if we are not sentient and if we are not clear and spacious enough within ourselves to notice, notice this valuable information and to be able to read our context, whether we're reading the room and the people in it, or we're reading how the political landscape is shifting or how the desires of our customer is shifting. Like we have to be attuned to so much. That takes so much intuition, and it takes a deep leadership practice. So when I think of the players out there who are doing an exceptional job of bringing this conscious leadership content and these different practices forward, I think of the Conscious Leadership Group or the Conscious Leadership Institute. They have both a for-profit and an educational arm. They have exceptional practices that we used in the Techstars Accelerator program when I used to work inside of that. The executive program that I am on the teaching team for at Harvard University is called the Executive Education for Sustainability Leadership program at Harvard University. And that is mind-blowing in this space. We get into biomimicry, and we have modules on how to harness the genius of nature in how we do leadership. We have Indigenous faculty who bring in a lot of Indigenous knowledge systems into the space and help us deprogram that Western mind that has set a control over us so that we can get out of some of these more controlling and extractive patterns that we see in our business culture. So those are just two, but and I also invite anyone to check out livingleaders.org, where I'm trying to put this type of content as frequently as I possibly can, because I think the world is hungry for this, and we're evolving, right? We're really evolving into a new way of doing business and a new way of leading.
Yeah, I love that. What a fantastic way to end the show. How can people contact you, follow you, check you out, social media? And I know you have a podcast as well.
I do, yes. So I have a podcast called Living Leaders, and that's available wherever you listen to podcasts. Livingleaders.org is the nonprofit with lots of educational material on conscious and regenerative leadership. A lot of free stuff in the resource library over there as well. I'm on YouTube under Nicole Bellisle and Living Leaders. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. And so those are going to be the best places to come hang out and come check out this whole world of conscious regenerative leadership.
Yeah, the whole ecosystem. Yeah, definitely for all the listeners out there, all of Nicole's resources will be in the links and show notes. And thanks so much for coming on and having a wonderful discussion, enlightening discussion on leadership, conscious intentionality, and design living. And with that, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Lou. This was wonderful. Thanks for having me.
I hope you really enjoyed that wonderful, inspirational, motivational piece. Again, wherever you are listening, if you liked it, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're on everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, Audible. And without much ado, be sure to thank this show's sponsors, and we'll see you next week.